The days that followed were quiet, but not in the way silence used to hurt them. This was a softer quiet, unfilled with careful glances, hesitant touches, and the unspoken agreement that rushing would only break them again. They began with small rituals, the kind that did demand too much but spoke volumes nonetheless. He would make her coffee in the mornings, the way she liked it, 2 spoons of sugar, a little milk, stirred clockwise because she once joked it tasted different that way. She would leave a book on the arm of his chair before bed, knowing he would smile when he saw it because it was one had been meaning to read for years. These gestures were not grand declarations of love. They were stitches in the torn fabric of what they once shared, slow and deliberate. But healing was never linear. Some days, the air between them felt light, like they could breathe each other in without resistance. Other days, the shadows of old wounds crept in, uninvited. There were moments when she would catch herself pulling away mid-laugh, afraid that letting him in too much would give him the power to hurt her again. There were nights when he would wake to find her staring at the ceiling, eyes heavy with the weight of questions she was ready to ask. He knew better than to push. Instead, he'd take her hand under the covers, a silent reminder that he was still there. Conversations became longer, deeper. They talked about the things they'd avoided before, their fears, their flaws, their different ways of loving. She told him about the years before they met, about the walls she built not to keep people out, but to keep herself safe. He confessed the mistakes he made, not just with her, but in life, and how each one carved him into the man sitting beside her now. There were tears, sometimes sharp words, but also moments of clarity where they both realized love wasn't about never breaking, it was about learning how to mend. One rainy evening, they found themselves sitting by the window, watching drops slide down the glass. She leaned against his shoulder, her voice low but steady. "You know, we're not who we were before. We'll never be that again." He kissed the top of her head. "Good. Because maybe this time, we'll be better." And in that moment, she realized something. The past might always live in the corners of their hearts, but it didn't have to dictate the shape of their future. They were no longer fighting to go back to what they had. They were slowly, tenderly building something new. It came on a Thursday, quietly, like most storms do before they tear open the sky. He was late, over an hour past when he said he'd be home. She had called twice, then stopped, telling herself she wouldn't fall into old patterns of pacing the floor or replaying worst-case scenarios in her head. But the truth was, her chest was tight, and every sound from the street outside made her heart jump. She remembered too well the feeling of waiting for someone who never came, the way doubt could slip through the smallest crack and multiply. When he finally walked through the door, rain clinging to his coat and hair, she didn't greet him right away. He set down his bag, saw her in the kitchen, and paused, dreading the stiffness in her shoulders, the way her fingers curled around the edge of the counter like she needed to hold on to something solid. "And sorry," he began, his voice low. "I should've called. There was an issue at work." She cut him off, not sharply, but with the kind of quiet that could hurt more than shouting. "I don't care about the work, I care about the not knowing. Do you understand what that does to me?" He stepped closer, the air between them heavy with the choice they both had: retreat into defensiveness, or step forward into vulnerability. "I do," he said, and for once, she believed him. "I wasn't just late. I was scared you'd think I was disappearing again. So I kept telling myself I'd call as soon as I was done, but it kept dragging on." He shook his head, almost at himself. That was the wrong choice. Her eyes softened, but the edge did disappear. "If we're doing this," she said slowly, "you can't leave me in that space where my mind starts building stories out of silence." He reached for her hand, wet from the condensation of the glass she'd been holding. "And if we're doing this, you have to tell me when you're scared, instead of locking it in, Let me be the one to break that silence. It was the perfect conversation. There were pauses where they searched for the right words, moments where emotion threatened to pull them backward. But they stood there, facing each other, neither walking away. Later that night, she found a note on the kitchen counter in his handwriting. I won't always get it right, but I won't stop trying. She folded it carefully, tucking it into her journal not as proof of perfection, but as a reminder that love was a series of choices, made over and over again. The roots we've grown, but didn't end. Through loss and grief, through sleepless cries, I found my strength still in your eyes. I've seen you break and still you shine. I've loved your soul, both rough and kind. When all the world turned cold and blind, your heart remained the rarest find. And in those nights when doubt grew tall, when love seemed distant, barely small, you held me close, you made me see that forever lies in constancy. No fire, no flood, no bitter fate could change the vows we did state. We never spoke them loud or wide. They lived in how we stood side by side. I promised you not perfect days, but hands to hold through all the haze. Not endless joy, or skies always blue, but a soul that never stops choosing you. I promised warmth when life gets cold, and arms to catch you when you fold. To laugh with you, to cry, to stay, even when love feels far away. For love is not the flame that burns. It's how we carry, how we learn. It's whispered in the mundane grace of morning breath and pillow face. It's found in cups of half-drunk tea, in shared mistakes and honesty. It's cooking meals when moods are sore. It's locking hearts behind one door. And when we reach that final shore, when hearts beat slow and brace are more, know this, it'll go with no regret. For loving you was my best bet. If ever life must take us to separate skies, to different views, I'll find you in the starless night, in quiet winds, in morning light. For soulmates don't just live and die. They echo on, they multiply. In poems, in songs, in children's grace. In every smile upon a face.